have you here.
Thank you, Usha. It's
So,
wonderful to be
and
here.
also most of the Nannagaru's close devotees will recognize you here because you were one of the favorite who would sing to him, and Nana, maybe in his entire journeys, he generally doesn't ask anybody to sing. And you were one of the exclusive devotees whom he, like cherished singing. So maybe after the session, when you have some time in between, you can sing a few lines for us.
Certainly.
And also, like, we would like to know about your spiritual journey, how you were turned to spirituality, and how your journey began, and how you came to India first.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Usha. You asked how I came to spirituality. I honestly, I don't know how. I can tell you how it unfolded in my life, but the actual why that happened in the way it did, what was the force behind it, I really don't know. I can say when I was a young child, I was a very naughty young child because I somehow knew that people didn't know what they were talking about. So I didn't accept the authority of teachers and parents and such. Of course, I did. I wasn't a completely wild child, but inside I just had this feeling that nobody knows what they're talking about. And that was always there. So then, as a teenager, I became mixed up in some things that maybe weren't so good for me, because I was sort of, in a sense, rebelling against this, what I was told to do. But one of the things I did was I experimented with some psychedelic drugs. And if you know a bit about the history of spirituality in America, in the 1960s, people did a lot of these, and they don't just, those kind of drugs in particular, they really can open you up to a taste of divine experience, but it's only temporary. So after trying these things, I thought, well, this is very nice, and they showed me something else that feels more much vaster than what I'm told life is about. But I thought what's the good if it just comes and goes? So somewhere I was searching, where is some place I can have that experience but not need a substance or not? I needed it naturally. So when I was about 20, there was a group that formed in the town I lived, and this was headed by a man. He had some sort of I think it was a leukemia, some sort of blood cancer, but he was healing himself through meditation, and the doctors were amazed. He was doing very well. And so he started a healing group. We would have these meditations. It was really about mind-body stuff. This was my kind of, I started to go into some depth with this, and I had a lot of love for this man who headed this group. He wasn't a guru, in that sense, but he had quite powerful energy. And I had a lot of faith in his abilities and what he was teaching, and suddenly he became sick at some point, and he left his body. So this was really a shock to me. I thought, somebody who's been teaching me so much, how can somebody like that be subject to death even? It put me in a very deep place of questioning. What's real? What's real? What's real? So this was really bothering me at that point. This time I'm 20 years old. And I found if I meditate with this, if I stay with this disturbance and this grief I felt inside, I would come to a very blissful place. I didn't know what it was. This was happening quite naturally. I hadn't read spiritual books. I knew nothing about India. Then at the time, I just had the thought, okay, everybody's afraid of death. I think there's something very interesting here. Let me find somebody who's not afraid. This was just, it came from inside, this thought. I have to find somebody who's not afraid. This is where it really started. So around that time I met Ram Dass. Many of you might know he was an early pioneer of spirituality in America. He wrote a book called Be Here Now, which became hugely popular. It sold 3 million copies. I met him at a lecture, and we immediately had this, all I can say is I recognized him, although I'd never met him before. And he kind of took me on as a close disciple, student, friend. we spent some time together, and then I had this growing feeling to go to India. I didn't want to go. I thought very dirty place, and people get sick, everybody I know, but why am I going to India? I have to go. Okay. I went, and the Kumbh Mela was happening. That year is 1989. So initially I met with a letter from Ramdas, I met a woman who I didn't know at the time, but she was really a great saint. I didn't even know. I had no idea who she took me under her wing. So I felt so drawn to her that a 2-week trip to India turned into 6 months. And I began discovering the Indian tradition of bhakti. I was having visions of Sri Ramakrishna. I was having so much connection with this woman, Siddhima, my spiritual mother, and Neem Karoli Baba. This is Ramdas's guru. So it was really profound. I thought, I can't leave this. It took over. I came back to America, and it was terrible because nobody was in bhakti path here, and it was like trying to mix oil and water. I was very, very turned off by the world at that point. I thought there's nothing outside in the world. Everything they're telling me is just has no flavor, useless nonsense. And I just wanted to meditate and do my japa. And I lasted in America. People kept saying it's culture shock, you'll readjust. I said, I'm nothing doing. I'm going back to India. So within 1 year, I was back in India. And I went to see my spiritual mother. And then Ramdas had told me about Papaji in Lucknow. So I didn't know anything about him also. I didn't even know he's Ramana's, Bhagwan's disciple. But I felt somehow I should meet him. So him I met, and within one meeting, he challenged everything that I ever believed was true. He didn't do it forcefully, but I saw that nothing in my mind had ever had any reality to it. Maybe I can explain it like that. And I asked him a very simple question. I said, what is Kripa? Because I've been hearing, oh, you have Guru Kripa, and it's such a blessing, and blah, blah, blah. I said, what is this? And people would say, oh, it's the Shakti of the Guru. I asked him the question, and Papaji, he gave a very good answer. He said, this is Kripa. Oh, simply at that moment, my mind had no other place to go but this, right here. And it stopped, and I couldn't speak. And this is the first time this happened with Papaji. And I just knew I was, again, that feeling I was compelled to stay with him. It wasn't my choice. So that began a whole other chapter after meeting Papaji. Short version, I stayed on and off with him for 7 years. And he left his body. And a couple of years later, I was in Tiruvannamalai. Many of us who were with Papaji, we went to Tiruvannamalai after Papaji left his body. And we just felt now we're in our grandfather's home. And we could continue being in that place that Papaji had shown us inside. And then so many saints, devotees of Bhagwan, live in Tiruvannamalai. We were visiting Annamalai Swami Yogi Ram Sarat Kumar, and people kept saying to me, you have to meet Nannagaru. They said, you're very devotional, you have to meet Nannagaru, you have to meet him. So I should tell a story when I first met him now, because it's maybe a good time.
Yes, so yeah, it's a good time to tell how you met Nannagaru first time.
Yes, this is very funny. I was telling you the other day. So he had a big meeting. This is at the Nannagaru ashram. It must have been 2001, first time I met him. And I went, and there was a big darshan. It used to be 300-400 people. I don't know how many, at least 200. And as a Westerner, I sat up front. I saw him come out, look at everybody, do his whole thing, and I felt nothing, to be honest. I thought, okay, he's nice. He looks like a saint. People is very nice, whatever. Then he ended the darshan. He went upstairs, and I said to a couple of friends, I said, he seems nice. They said, well, go meet him upstairs. I said, okay, I'll go. There's a short queue waiting to get into his room. And I'm standing there, I was thinking, oh, I should have some spiritual question. I'm meeting a saint. So I'm thinking, what should I ask him? You know, I didn't even remember. It must have been some clever question about karma or vasanas or something. And suddenly it was my turn. I was ushered into the room. He was sitting on his bed, as he used to do. And who was the man who was his attendant? What was his name?
Garu. Yeah,
Ramchandra.
it's Ramchandra Raju.
Yes, those three of us, me and Ramchandra and Nana. And I bowed to him, I pranamed, I sat down, and he leaned forward and looked at me. He said, what is your name? I said, Charan. He said, Charan. He said, where are you from? I said, America. He said, America. Like this, he would repeat every answer. So, you know, Nana could act very silly sometimes, in a way, I can say.
Yes. Yes.
And I was trying to be serious. And he said, where do you stay here? I said, I'm staying in Atithi Ashram. He said, oh, Atithi Ashram. He said, where do you take your meals? I'm thinking, what is he asking? What kind of questions this guy is asking me? I said, I take meals in Sadhu Om. He said, oh, Sadhu Om. He said, what do they feed you? I said, rice. Again, he was repeating, rice. I said, vegetables. He said, vegetables. I said, sambar. He said, oh, sambar. And then he leaned very close, and he gave me a very intense look. He said like this, curd, do they feed you curd? So I thought, it's very intense he's asking me, like it's a very intense spiritual question, but he's asking me if I eat curd. It was so silly, I simply started laughing. And he looked at me, and I say at that point, I didn't even realize that my mind had completely disappeared. Just with that one word, curd. What he did. Mind was gone. I started laughing. He looked at me, and then he relaxed. He leaned back. He looked at me. He nodded. He said, very good. You can go. So I walked out. I was completely transformed. There was no spiritual teaching. There was some transmission. I don't even know of what. So it's that energy that pulled me to India. The pull that I had to meet the Guru was so strong. I had no choice in the matter. And, you know, I began writing also with Nana after that meeting. I already began writing poems to him. And I've met many saints. I never had this experience other than with Nana, that I would meet him, he would do something, and I would have to write about it. And it would come out as poetry. So, you know, I know he published some of those, and I used to just hand them to him. When I went to see him, even later that day, I wrote him already poetry. And he, at that point, he stopped when he was going through a crowd. That was at Andhra Ashram on the roof. And he had read my poem. He put his hand on my shoulder, and there was another person standing there, and he indicated me, and he said, he's my very, very old friend. So when he said that, all I can say is I knew that I knew this man since as long as I can remember. So that's the introduction then.
Yeah. So then, how many times you met Nana after that?
I kept meeting him whenever he would come to Tiruvannamalai. So what, he would come 2-3 times a year. I often wasn't there in the hot season, so I would see him once or twice a year. You know, he would stay sometimes a few days or even up to 10 days. So I would have quite some time with him. And the one time I went to Hyderabad and I stayed with you, that was also for a few days. And I went on
and Hyderabad meeting. Yeah. We would like to hear your Hyderabad meeting with Nannagaru also.
Hyderabad meeting with Nannagaru. That must have been 2002 then, you're saying?
Yes, sometime around,
No, he invited me. I went. I ended up first night in a hotel near the railway station, and I was given an address to come to. I don't know whose house it was. But he asked me where I'm staying. You were present.
We had started.
Yes.
He asked me where he's staying, and I went to the hotel. And he didn't say anything at that time when I was sitting there. He just looked at you.
Yes.
And then according to you, he said to you afterwards, should Ram be staying in a hotel?
Yeah, he was, he told me like, why Ram Charan is staying in hotel and he shouldn't be staying in Hotel Usha. He has to stay at your place. So ask him to collect his luggage and you take him home tonight. And
So,
then till you left, you were with me and we traveled together to Nana and spent most of our time with him. I think he was in Lakshmi Auntie's house then. Yeah. And you had this special darshan where there were a lot of flowers placed there and then you distributed among devotees.
well, I had a few special darshans with him there. So one that I want to talk about is, I don't know whose house it was at. I was taken to so many houses with him. And this was beautiful, to go in the car with him. I mean, really magical. You know, it was like being with Krishna. That everywhere he went, there were just so many people waiting to receive him.
True.
In one of the houses, I was sitting in front of him, a big group, maybe 300 people, and he looked at me and he said, "Ram Charan, do you like meditation?" I said, yes. So that time I had been in Tiruvannamalai. I'd been meditating a lot those last 2-3 months before that. That's all I wanted to do was sit there. So he said, "Do you like meditation?" I said, yes. He said, "You like it very much?" I said, yes. He said, "More than it's your favorite thing?" I said, yes. So Nannagaru's teachings to me were mostly in silence. He simply sat there. He gave his darshan, as he would do, but you could always feel him tuning everybody's energy. He'd tune in on certain people, do a little energy tune. You know, he would always do this, and you could feel he was doing something with his Shakti. So he would look at me. He did this kind of gazing. And you can't describe these things, but he took me to a very, very, very subtle place of meditation. And very difficult to put these things into words, but the moment I landed in this place of very absolute spaciousness, vast space, at that moment I looked at him and he turned and looked at me and he went, and then he got up and walked out. So that was a very interesting darshan, because he was so clearly, taking me to a place and saying, that's it. But no words spoken. Other one, beautiful darshan there. We were in Lakshmi's house, you're saying. A lot of people, as always. And I was sitting with a few Westerners on the side of the room, and Nana had a lot of flower petals around his feet. So a big pile of flower petals. At some point, I don't know if I was asked to sing or if I just got up to sing. I began singing this Shri Rama Jaya Rama Jaya Jaya Rama Om Shri Rama Jaya Rama Jaya Jai Rama Om, and everybody began singing along. So there's a couple of hundred people singing beautifully to Nana, and I just began taking those flowers and passing them around, and some people would take them as prasad, some people were tossing them, coming up to Nana and tossing the flowers, and it was such a beautiful devotional darshan. I felt just kind of taken into his whole Leela loka. And for me, this is what distinguishes a true saint. He had an entire loka of his own. You can say like Nana loka. Yes.
Ram, I think Ushaka got disconnected a bit. She will join in a minute. Maybe you can chant a few meanwhile she joins.
Okay. Would you like me to chant a little bit of Madhurashtakam?
Yes. We would love to.
Yeah, and this also interesting is that one of the first things I ever sang to Nana I didn't know that he loves it, but once I understood the meaning, I thought it's actually perfect bhajan for Nannagaru.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm singing it in front of people now for the first time in about probably 15 years, because I used to sing it to Nannagaru. Other than that, I never sang this.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we'd love to hear.
Okay. Maduram, Maduram.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Maduram, Nayanam Maduram, Hasitam Maduram, Hridayam Maduram, Gamanam Maduram, Maduradipate, Akhilam Maduram. Madhuradipate Akhilam Madhuram Vachanam Madhuram Charitam Madhuram Vachanam Madhuram Charitam Madhuram Vasanam Madhuram Valitam Madhuram Chalitam Madhuram Brahmitam Madhuram Chalitam Madhuram Brahmitam Madhuram Madhuradipate Akhilam Madhuram Madhuradipate Akhilam Madhuram Venur Madhuro Renur Madhura Venur Madhuro Renur Madhura Panir Madhura Pado Madhuro Panir Madhura Pado Madhuro Nityam Madhuram Sakhyam Madhuram Nityam Madhuram Sakhyam Madhuram Madhuradipate Akhilam Madhuram Madhuradipate Akhilam Madhuram Geetam Madhuram Pitam Madhuram Geetam Madhuram Pitam Madhuram Bhuktam Madhuram Suptam Madhuram Bhuktam Madhuram Suptam Madhuram Rupam Madhuram Tilakam Madhuram Rupam Madhuram Tilakam Madhuram Madhuradipate Akhilam Madhuram Madhuradipate Akhilam Madhuram Gopa Madhura Gao Madhura Gopa Madhura Gao Madhura Yashtir Madhura Sushtir Madhura Yashtir Madhura Shrishtir Madhura Dalitam Madhuram Palitam Madhuram Dalitam Madhuram Palitam Madhuram Madhuradipate Akhilam 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 Maduram Maduradipate. Akhilam Maduram Akhilam Maduram Akhilam Maduram.
Amazing, amazing. Just wonderful, Ram. You have transported us all into the world of Krishna. And Nana was our Krishna, Ram, always.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, because he would live Krishna in every act of his.
Every act. Even when I'm singing this and I know some of the meaning, I think, yes, this is describing Nannagaru.
Yes, yes, yes. He came as an older version of Krishna.
Yes, he was geriatric Krishna.
You're right.
But I'm reminded, even when I used to sit with him and he would be eating or drinking or something, I was just in, how amazing I could watch. I was allowed to watch the Lord eating and drinking. Wow.
I know.
That's why, particularly with him, I wasn't one much for any teachings. I didn't. What could he tell me?
I think, no, for the Westerners, I think his silence taught you more profoundly than, he would always tell us, the Westerners are meditators and they can hear my language in silence.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he said he would speak to us because we couldn't catch his silence.
What did he teach, actually? I don't even know what he taught. I mean, of course, he would speak a bit of Bhagwan's teachings. I heard, some things, but mostly he was teaching in Telugu. I thought, what's he saying?
Yes. Telugu, yeah, he would actually preach profound, Ram. I mean, we wouldn't find a guru like Nannagaru because, see, there are so many realized saints, as you said, you have come across many of them in India. We have a lot of realized saints in India from time immemorial, okay? Mm-hmm. Nana was a reflection of, I should say, all the Hindu gods. He was all the reflection of all the saints. He was a reflection of any saint he spoke about or any god he spoke about. For instance, suppose he was, he became that. And you know what? His whole personality would change. The way he would look at us would change, and we would be seeing. Suppose he was talking about Lord Krishna. Or he would be telling few incidents from like Mahabharata, because Krishna has done lot of leelas in his life, and Krishna is a leela avatara. Krishna's avatar itself was a leela avatara.
Yes.
Means all leelas all through his life. He was very mischievous also.
Very mischievous.
And Ram was he is called Maryada Purushottama, means most honorable behavior. He's Dharma Avatara. Ram was Dharma Avatara, and also he was, very respectable, and then his demeanor was very, dignified and things like that. And Krishna was like a thief.
Ram was not naughty.
Ram wasn't naughty.
Hanuman was naughty, but not Ram.
Hanuman was naughty, yes. And I think you were more inclined to Hanuman first.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, it's more
and
fun.
So you would sing Hanuman Chalisa also many times to Nana, didn't you?
Yeah, this was from my spiritual mother, Siddhi Ma. She had me, this was first sadhana she gave me. She said, sing Hanuman Chalisa 11 times in the morning, 11 times in the afternoon, also morning arti and evening arti. So I thought, I won't have time for anything else. I have to sing 24 times a day. But this, you asked how I came to this. I could tell my chronological story like I did. There was something I read a couple of years ago really hit home. That it was David Godman was talking about Nisargadatta Maharaj.
Okay.
And David Godman asked Nisargadatta Maharaj. Now, I never met Nisargadatta Maharaj. He passed before I came to India. Now, Nisargadatta Maharaj, if you're familiar with his teachings, he didn't teach mysticism at all. Yes. He taught strictly path of Gyan. Very practical, very, very direct. No mysticism. So, but David Godman asked him this question. that Maharaj, you seem to very much you give a lot of love and favor to those Westerners who are in India seeking. Why do you have such a favor on them? And Maharaj's answer was very good. He said, at the end of the Ramayana war, Ram was giving boons to the different animals that had helped him defeat Ravana. And to the monkeys, he gave the boon that they'll be reborn in a monkey heaven. So for monkey, heaven is lots of food, lots of fighting, lots of sex, lots of materialism, lots of fun things. So these monkeys were born as Westerners in the 20th century. This was the monkey heaven. So, but then he said a very good thing. He said eventually some of the monkeys began to grow weary of so much excess and so much worldliness, and they returned to India to find Ram and be with him. So I read this. I tell this story, my hair stand on end, because I said there's nothing else that ever explained my life other than this story.
So you synced with it very well.
Very well, because I went to India and I sought for Ram and I found him in form of Papaji, initially. Yeah. And for me, Papaji was like my Ram. When I met Nana, it was like meeting Krishna. So I said, okay, same
God.
Both the same. They're both Narayan.
Yes,
they're both Narayan.
Yes, yes.
The expression is different.
Yes. And yes, as you said, Ram, when Nana spoke about Ram, he was completely Ram too. So it's like Nana was a combination of all gods and, all the gods, saints, sages. Because when he spoke about Ramakrishna, because there were many incidents where, for days on end, he would speak on Ramakrishna, he would speak on Shankaracharya, and we have traveled vast with Nana, wherever he traveled, we made lot of travels with him. And I think you've heard of Shankaracharya, no? I don't know if you've heard of Shankaracharya.
Of course, yes.
Yeah. So his teachings were very profound and similar to that of Bhagavan, like Viveka Chudamani and all that.
Yes.
So, yes. So it's all of it is about Advaita, but Nannagaru has this, very sweet way of bringing it even to the illiterate. Not only just truth seekers. Truth seekers, can grasp it instantly because they are already in the search.
Yes, of course.
Suppose you're thirsty and the water given to you is, it's like nectar. You just quickly grab it. So for truth seekers, a sage is like you instantly recognize him and he embraces you. But Nana was such a sweet personality that he became a part of us, Ram. He was never aloof from us. No? He was like our family.
Yes. Well, this also I experienced. Yes. I didn't feel that he was. I didn't have a formal relationship with him, that he's up there and I'm down here. He was always very informal with me, and he wouldn't allow me to. Yes, of course, I would pranam to him, I'd prostrate to him, but he wouldn't allow me to create this separation so much.
Yes, because he owned everything actually, Ram.
Yes.
Whoever came to him, he just owned them.
Yes. So, yeah. This I see with many great saints, if they've truly realized, they can speak to anybody.
Yes.
And of course, they'll favor those who want the truth. If you look at Shirdi Sai Baba also said a beautiful thing. He said, I give people what they want until they want what I have to give them. Yes. This is a beautiful line.
Yeah,
means a real saint, they don't discriminate, but they have a special love for people who want
the truth.
Who want, you can say, realization.
Yes.
Because they know this is the highest thing they have to give.
Yes. And
he once asked me, I just say, Nana once asked me in front of a bunch of people. First he had asked me in his room. He said, Ram Charan, what do you want? I said, I want God. He said, do you want money? I said, sure, I just enough is enough. I don't need too much. So he was very impressed. So he waited until I was in front of a big group of people, and he said, Ram Charan, do you want money? I said, no, I have enough. What he did, he looked away from me and he looked at everybody there.
He's adorable.
You know, at the same time, it's quite a strong, you know, a little bit of a slap in the face, but he would be so mischievous and so sweet while he's doing it. You know, you don't know how to respond.
It's basically he attracted people like I know, like he has showed a heaven on earth, Ram.
Yes.
Yeah. So like you know, it was like being with Nana was like Gopikas being in Vrindavan with Krishna.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, because
Really.
yeah, because we could relate so well to Krishna and Gopikas, and then actually there was one point of time, and you spoke about this Nisargadatta Maharaj statement on foreigners, right? And Nana had his own version, like you were Indians who had few vasanas, so you had to be born abroad, and you are attracted back because this is your root.
Yes. Papaji
Yeah.
said the same thing to me. Papaji
Yeah.
said the exact same thing to me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, so many saints saying it has to be true.
Yes.
And even, honestly, you know, I have a nice house now in America, blah, 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 very nice job, friends, so many things. And it's not as sweet as India. If I'm in India with few belongings, you know, couple of lungis and a shirt, and I just have my basic needs met, and I'm in a here, I'm 100 times happier.
And Ram, did you have this profound experiences of truth in the presence of masters?
Well, yes. You know,
Yeah, I know it's hard to describe. I know it's difficult to put it in words.
impossible.
Yeah.
But Papaji, I'll talk about first because he's the one that really gave me the strongest awakening or pointer. I don't know how to put it, but with Papaji, it was like a battle to the death between me and Papaji. And obviously he's going to win because he's Sakshat Param Brahm, so you can't defeat him. So, but my ego really, you know, it wasn't pretty sometimes. You know, I find when you're really with the guru, is everybody says, oh, it's all so sweet and so many flowers and such bliss. Actually, it's not. That's just to make it so you don't run away. I think. Actually, they're Rudra. They're going to pummel. You know, they're really going to destroy your ego. That's the job. So they have to give you some sweets in between. But
Yes.
For the most part, it's really a battle. So,
Yes.
you know, it's Kurukshetra.
The inner war till we finish ourselves.
Yes, and we're fighting against Krishna. It's hopeless. So, Papaji, I used to argue with him actually because I thought if he's so close to me, like my own grandfather, and he even told me first time I met him, he said, "You're a family member. You come to my house anytime." I thought, okay, it's just being formal Indian, nice thing to say, but actually, he didn't say this to many people. So I fell for it. I said, okay, I'll spend a lot of time with you because such a state you would get in around these beings. Why should I go anywhere else? So,
Yes.
and then after a while, there's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
with Papaji, I say it took me a couple of months because I was very dense. And Papaji his speciality is he'd say, you realize it right now. He said, what are you waiting for? Nothing's going to change. Just come on. He'd say, there's only this moment, so stop delaying because the postponement is the only block to your realization. He was very absolute with this.
Yeah.
So maybe 3 months after I met him, I'll tell you the story. It's very interesting. There was a man, there were 5 or 6 of us with Papaji at the time. He was not known. So one man came from America and he said, I've been pointing out my whole life, I'm afraid of this, I'm afraid of that. Papaji said, turn the finger around
Yeah.
to the one who feels the fear. So this man had a bit of a insight. And I was listening to this and I thought, wow. And I thought, my block is not fear, my block is doubt. Yeah? I'm not afraid at this point, but the doubt is there. Everything I do has been contaminated by doubt, and I could see my whole life. And I said to him, Papaji, everything I've ever done, I've had doubt. So should I just turn the finger around? He didn't say anything. He turned and looked at me, and he just smiled. And there was one Swami who later came to Nana. Swamiji was there, and they both looked at me and smiled. They said something in Hindi. At that time, I didn't understand. And they just, for about 30 seconds, That was it. I went back to my room. I was very peaceful. And next day, I went to see Papaji in the morning. As normal, we would go. And he said, oh, actually, my devotee died. His Indian devotee had died. He had to go to the cremation ghat. So he said, there's not going to be any satsang this morning. And I was alone with him. I said, I don't need satsang anymore. I said, since we spoke yesterday, I'm completely at peace. I mean, really, I had no thoughts. It was absolute, just, you know that space, absolute, so delightful, nothing there.
Yeah.
And he looked at me and he said, what did you see?
Yeah.
He looked, this look. And
Yes,
I said, I saw that I don't need to impress you with any spiritual experiences. I can simply say, I'm right here. And this is what I feel. And I actually hit the ground. So he gave me a look I can never describe. If somebody is a diamond appraiser and they're looking very intensely in this diamond, is it pure? He was looking at me like this. And then he said, and then he didn't say anything. And I said, when you told that guy to turn the finger around, at that point I started laughing like a madman. A complete madman. He started laughing like a madman. His attendant came in. The three of us, for at least half an hour, we were complete madhouse behavior. I mean, and it was completely unstoppable. It was like an explosion. It was God laughing. You know, nothing else.
Wow.
And we calmed down after 20, 30 minutes of lunatic asylum behavior. And then we stood up. We were standing face to face. I was this far from Papaji's face, and I said, Muhammad said, give up the things in which you're in doubt for the things in which there is no doubt.
Wow. Wow.
It's a saying of Muhammad. Beautiful saying. And I said, Papaji, there's only one thing that has no doubt. And he looked right in my eye. He said, what's that? So I tried to speak. When you said we can't speak, this is what happened. I wanted to say it, and I went, I stopped. At that moment, he looked right into beyond my eye. I can't speak what that was, but there was something that was transferred through the eyes, and he hugged me. He pulled me in. Now, in my life, if I ever hug anybody, there's something in me that's thinking, okay, I should hold back a little. There's some little something, some separation. This is the only time in my life I ever hugged anybody, and I completely disappeared. And it was literally a 2-second hug. He just, doop, and then cello. He would do this. Papa would do this cello. And he literally pushed me out of his house after that. I mean, I was so confused at this point. Pushed me out of his house. He said, I'm going, you come tomorrow. I was in a complete daze. I felt, I mentioned before that I had started this with some experimenting with some psychedelic drugs. That was nothing compared to what Papaji did to me. And I wandered down the street. I sat in a rickshaw to go back to part of town I was staying in. That time we were all staying in hotels. And I got to my place. I gave the rickshaw guy money, and I stepped out of it. So this moment, I can't describe. As I stepped out of the rickshaw, the feeling was like a raindrop hitting the ocean, and everything I'd ever known, it literally spread out in ripples and disappeared. And that kind of samadhi you can't describe. You can say it looks like when they talk about in the Yoga Vashishta how there are infinite waves of universes arising and sinking in the ocean of the Supreme.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
It started literally this universes and universes. And I'm fully wide open, but I wasn't in meditation. I was actually walking on the street, but it was a completely different state. And I felt the only thing that had ever been real was Papaji. There was nothing else in the universe that had ever been real. And it wasn't subtle. It wasn't
magnanimous.
It was the brightness of 1,000 suns.
Seriously. Seriously.
And I mean, I everything was so much Papaji. At one point that day, I had an apple in my hand. I was wandering around like a lunatic, and I saw a goat. And the goat to me was Sakshat Parambrahm. And I thought, God must be hungry. So I went to the goat to offer it an apple. And the goat, of course, being a goat, starts to run away from me. So I'm chasing after a goat because it's God, and I've got an apple to feed it, and I'm chasing after God in the form of a goat. This is how I spent the next couple of days. Very different state of mind.
Yeah.
So this was initial awakening, initial introduction.
Yes.
And you know, I'm very stubborn, so it took me many years and many teachers I had to be with who kept
Knocking.
slapping me so I go back into that place.
Yeah.
So with
You're
Papaji, this
very,
has been very strong. And with Siddhi Ma, also a couple of times, also very, you know, put in that place. And one other teacher I met was named Aja. He was pretty unknown. He was in southern Karnataka.
Huh.
You know, I can say Papaji showed me this diamond. This, you know, it needed polishing somehow. So this is why I spent many years in India after this. That after this initial awakening, we have to do, this is when we really have to do sadhana.
Yes,
This is when the sadhana starts.
Yes, it starts only
Real
then.
sadhana starts.
Yeah, true.
So, and in this, Nannagaru was an invaluable aid to me.
Yeah.
Because we can't do that sadhana without the, you can, but without, when you have the support of a realized person, it's 1,000 times easier. I'll say like this.
1,000 times easier. Yes. This way,
You
this
can get to
off.
yourself.
Yes.
Because you're going to fall here and there. They'll pick you up like that.
Yes.
Eventually you have to learn to walk your own. This is my life now. I don't have, suddenly, I used to have so many saints, I'd go and now I don't know. I just have to be present. I go to Bhagwan's Samadhi in Tiruvannamalai.
Yeah.
I sit there, do my own sadhana here, my own practice. I don't know. You know, it's funny. We talked about this. I think realization, if I can say anything about it, it's a process of unknowing. It's not a process of getting knowledge.
No.
You have to disappear in that. So
Yes.
because the one who thinks that they're doing the sadhana or the one who thinks they're going to get realized is just a thought. So that thing can never have God realization. That ego mind. There's no such thing. And it doesn't even have to be obliterated because it's not even there. It's just a pattern. It's a belief. It's a thought. So there's this constant, I would say, surrender. But in the presence of Nana, you know, with his energy field, I didn't have to surrender. It just was, there was automatically,
I totally get it, Ram, because we were all a part of this always. I mean, he owned us so much that we didn't have to, he wouldn't even let us move to anyone.
You don't belong to yourself at that point.
No, and he made sure we were with him for the rest of his life.
Yes.
You know, he held us so close that he wouldn't let us turn our head to any other direction.
Yes.
And one way, as Indians, we were fortunate because we didn't have the amount of freedom you have. Because in India, it's more of a conservative thing. We are, limited to our families, and it was most of us were women, and then many from villages.
You don't have time to act like a sadhu.
You can only be a housewife or a working woman. We don't have time for sadhu. So it was like, Nana, I mean, one of the times, one of these good personalities who were, who was quite advanced in his sadhana and who had a lot of experiences of truth, and he came and asked Nana, how are your devotees so happy and joyful all the time? They don't seem like doing any meditation. They don't seem like doing any sadhana. They're just happily roaming around like monkeys.
This is why I got along.
And and Nana said, they don't even know the peace they are enjoying in my presence. It happens naturally.
Mm.
So the devotees will not even know at what stage they are in, because sadhana happened effortlessly for us, Ram.
Yes. Yes.
Because he always gave so much importance to holy company, and he made sure all of us were in his presence most of our time.
This is most powerful. Most powerful means for realization is satsang with a saint. Here in Bhagwan, Bhagwan said this is the best association. He said, after this, what did he say? After this was, he said darshan of an ancient murti.
Yeah.
So we know this feeling when we go to these ancient temples. There's some similar, but he always, even Bhagwan said, number one is association with a holy person.
Holy
Papaji
company, yes.
Papaji also used to say, satsang is the most important, highest fruit of human birth.
Yes.
Siddhima also told me very much. My spiritual mother, she said, be very careful the company you keep.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And Nana also gave so much importance to it, Ram, because he says the holy company can elevate you to, it can transform you and get you to closer to truth very easily, and a bad company can pull you out that easily.
Yes, and we all face this kind of vacillation until we get to that place. There's a line from the Ramayana. I mean, some people may be knowing Hindi. I love this line. For me, there's one line that Ram says. Who is he saying? They're describing Ram. They're saying, "Soy janai jehi dehu janai janata tumahi hoi jai." It means the one gets knowledge that you choose, that you give the knowledge to. Soy janai jehi dehu janai, and having known you, that person becomes you.
Yes.
This is a very high, beautiful statement.
Yeah, actually, in simpler words, this is a simpler proverb is, tell me who your friends are, I will tell you who you are.
There's that also.
Yeah. So the company matters a lot.
I honestly have a lot of friends. I don't hang out with people very much. I mean, I'm friendly. There's nothing like that. But this is why I miss India. Just to have in India, I feel like you can have satsang all the time.
Yes. But Ram, I think you traveled. I think every year you were in India 4 to 6 months every year. You did travel a lot to India all these years.
It varied a lot. In the 90s, sometimes I stayed year round. Then it became I would be there about 10 months out of the year. That was while I was spending time with Nana, particularly in the early 2000s. I was in India between 6 to 10 months of the year. I had some health issues, so I couldn't stay there the whole time. Last few years, I come for 2 to 3 months. I'm a little more busy with my professional stuff here, and also, again, India. My problem, I say honestly, is my stomach. If that wasn't the issue, I would say I probably would have lived the rest of my life in India. But I tend to get I lose weight. I get very weak. I try everything, and it's eventually I say, okay, let me go out and no,
I think, but once it's like this, no, Ram. Once you have these glimpses of truth, once you have experienced it within you, we are choiceless. We are led there. Destiny could be anything, like your prarabdha, because as Bhagwan says, no, we don't have a choice in our body destiny.
Yeah.
So from the time we are born till we lose our last breath, it's every action of your body is predetermined. So the only choice that we are left with is to, like the inner life.
Yeah, this is one that I'd say this is true from an absolute perspective. There's also because we have these illusory bodies, there's an illusion of free will, and even if it's not real, we have to engage that in a way that's
true.
That's wise.
True. Yes.
You can't just be doing all sorts of foolish stuff and say, well, it's my karma and it's God's fault.
No, absolutely no.
That's a abdication of responsibility, because God is you. Eventually, you have to also honor that in your actions.
Yes. So that's why, Ram, I will interfere here. That's why Nana always said, make effort thinking everything is in your hand. Make your effort thinking everything is in your hand. And once you give your 100% to it, forget about the results.
Yes.
Yes.
That 100% itself becomes nothing.
Yeah.
This is, I think once you have this glimpse of vast emptiness, you can start to understand a bit more easily how, what this world is in some ways. Interesting if I look back, before meeting Papaji, if I hadn't met Papaji and spent time with him, I would not have been able to have the connection I did with Nana, I think.
Yes.
Because he awakened something in me that attuned me to the presence of a self-realized being. And even to this day, if I get near somebody, I don't have to know them, but if they're realized, I feel it immediately.
Yes.
And I'm just thinking it's interesting to look at what is the effect of years and years spending time with saints in India. Somehow, I think there's a seed that's planted in us by Guru.
Absolutely.
And we can never. That's indestructible seed.
Yes.
Even if we're worse sinners, it doesn't matter on a certain level. But eventually, that starts to take over in a way that I feel I'm an idiot like everybody else. I'm not making a claim here, but what I'm saying is that there's a connection to the Guru Shakti that is effortless. So if you sent me a beautiful video of singing Madhurashtakam to Nana.
Yes.
Instantaneously, I look at him appearing on the screen, and it's literally like he's sitting right here with me.
Yeah. Because they are eternal, Ram. They were never the physical presence, but they were eternal. So any moment you see Nana anywhere, or be it any saint, because they are the eternal presence.
Yes. Yeah. Also, it's transpersonal, because their eternal presence means this is very much in Bhagwan's teaching. When you look at the saint, you're seeing the seer. You're seeing what is seeing through you.
Yes.
So this is why it's so strange to the mind to be in the company of such a one. You can't figure it out. It's perplexing. Just to look at them is like a paradox. But it's such a love that you say, okay, I don't know what this is, but it's much better than anything else I've ever seen. So I'm going to stay with it. So that's what I was saying before. Nannagaru had such a honey. He had such a nectar. Yeah. He would simply draw you in.
Yes.
And
I would generally describe this, Ram, as like this huge magnet, a very powerful, huge magnet. Where we are the small iron fillings, and we have no choice, because in the vicinity of magnet, you just go stick to it.
Even you don't want to.
You don't. You have no choice.
You have no choice, because really, to be very close to a saint is not easy. As you know, it's not easy.
It's not.
And people think, oh, you're so lucky. You say, well, yes, but you don't judge too quickly. It's a very hot fire.
It's true.
And we'd run away if we could.
Yes, I told many people this one. When everybody said, "You're so extremely lucky," I said, "No, I had my share of tests with Nana also."
Yes, and one is tremendously grateful for it, but you're not going to go through it willingly. I'd say you asked about experiences of truth, and I'd say one of my strongest experiences, which it was more of a Kundalini experience. It happened with this South Indian saint Aja, he's not known, but I was staying in a room with another foreigner there, and it happened in the middle of the night. Just
just happens anywhere, anytime. Yeah.
It was this Kundalini is also is another thing. You see people practicing Kundalini, so they have a Kundalini awakening. I say you don't want it. Actually, it's such a trouble. It's such a bliss, and it's such a trouble at the same time. So, from that place, from that inner place, I'm extremely grateful to Nannagaru. I'm extremely grateful to Papaji, to Siddhima, to all the saints I've met. I have to say, even though I went to India again and again and again, it was because my heart made me. If my head had been in control, I never would have done this.
Yes, yes.
They say about Krishna, sometimes the gopis are talking about Krishna, they're saying, he's a very unreliable character, just stay away from him or he'll ruin your life.
But they wouldn't leave him for a moment.
Not for a moment. They hear his flute and accidentally they put their arm onto the fire instead of the piece of wood. They don't even know that about their body.
So they all lost their body consciousness by just being in his presence, just enjoying the presence. Yeah, yeah. And I think all Nana devotees, Ram, it's unbelievable. We have been, cleansed of most of the vasanas, given the glimpses of truth many a times. And we never knew we were doing sadhana. And he would say many a time, I want all of you to realize the truth within you without your powder being rubbed from your face. He would apply a lot of powder actually, Nannagaru. So he would say, without even a little powder going away from your face, I want you all to be realized. It's like you're all sitting now. Before you stand, I want you to realize. It's like the Papaji told you, no? Here and now, don't postpone.
Yes. This is the beauty of Bhagwan's teaching.
Yeah.
The beauty of
and
Bhagwan's
Nana, also Ram, Nana was so elaborate. Huh? He would Bhagwan would speak about the truth and then he would give pointers towards truth. Okay? So, but Nana was amazing because he brought silence into speech, Ram.
Yes.
And sent us into silence.
Yes.
I mean, I can't even put this in words because the profound silence, he brought it out into his voice.
Mantra Mulang
sure, yeah. And he sent us all to the heart center effortlessly and cleansed us. And before he left his body, I would like to tell you this, Ram.
Yeah.
He did have a lot of suffering in the physical body before he left his body for almost 3 months.
Kidney problem, huh?
Yeah. No, he did have. Actually, he had a lot of issues. Huh? It started with skin actually. It started with his skin turning color. He had rashes. It slowly spread. And then slowly it involved his organs, and because he was on steroids for a very long time by then. Yeah, in fact, the last few years, even in spite of his ill health, he spent so much time with devotees because even before he left his physical frame, he wanted us all to be realized. It was not like a truth seeker's desire to know the truth. It was a jnani's desire that all that came to him had to be realized.
Yes.
And he had such compassion. I can't even. There were many times he said, people ask me if you are attached to me or I am attached to you. And also when in Tiruvannamalai he would say, have I come here to see Arunachala or have I come here to see you all?
You see, it's a beautiful statement, and it gives, how to say, all the adoration that we feel towards the Guru. If we feel the Guru has as much love and adoration towards us, we're finished, because we can't. There's no room for us anymore. There's only the love.
Yes. You have no choice, Ram, because we can't exist in such love.
Exactly. This is it. You have no choice because you can't exist.
Yeah.
So the only choice is it's not even a choice. The only thing it's not a personal choice. Does consciousness free itself of this attachment to some individual, or is there still attachment? And I'd say it's about the oscillation. The sadhana is about the oscillation. Guru will always point us beyond.
And in this instance, I would like to tell you the example that he had given. One of the devotees had asked him, Nana, why is it that in your presence we lose everything and we feel we are one with you, we don't have any separateness? There's no separateness. We're all one, and there's no scope for any thought or for, you forget your body, you forget your home, you forget your family. Yeah. There's no thought, and you're so completely in oneness with Nana. how does this happen and what happens after we go back home? I mean, why don't we continue to be in the same state? Because we're totally at peace. Effortlessly, we don't have an effort there. You know what Nana answered? I mean, it's one beautiful example where it's stamped in people's mind because it's so beautiful. What he said was, now you go to a lake, a pleasant, calm lake, and it is the water is covered with moss, green moss. You know, this moss which covers the water, the fungi. Yeah. So the moss, algae. Yeah. So when you see, suppose there's moss over this pleasant lake, and then you put your hands together and part the moss.
Yes.
You part the moss, and it's all the still crystal clear water inside. And then you, after it's settled, you look at it, and you see your reflection. You see the mirror reflection of yourself. So similarly, what he said was, in the presence of a realized master, what happens is, the cloud of thoughts in your mind is like moss, where in the presence of master, he doesn't do it intentionally. It's a spontaneous happening where your mind gives way and the truth is directly in face to face with truth. So you are face to face with your own truth.
Yes.
And then you are in the absolute presence.
Then you're in absolute presence.
Yeah.
Then you're in absolute presence. And
yes.
And then people think the matter ends there. In a way, this is just, as you said, this is just in a sense, it's a doorway. It's a beginning.
Yes. And what he said was, now this is dependent because you're getting it in the presence of a master.
Yes.
It has to become independent.
Own.
Yes.
It has to become your own, obviously.
Yes. And as you said, our journey begins only after we realize the presence.
Yeah, before that we're groping in the dark.
Exactly. Ram, I think your time is another 10 minutes because you have another appointment with somebody else. So probably you can sing a few lines of Hanuman Chalisa before we end this.
Okay, because, 5 minutes of Hanuman Chalisa. I'm not going to sing the whole thing. And then we have to
no problem.
Do it again.
Yeah.
Mangala Murati Marutanandana Sakala Mangala Mulani Kandam Mangala Murati Marutanandan Sakala Mangala Mulani Kandam Shri Guru Charana Sarojaraja Nija Mana Mukuru Sudari Barano Raghuvara Vimala Jasu Jodayaku Palachari Buddhihina Tanujanike Sumira Om Pavana Kumara Bala Buddhi Vidya De Savikara Vyavare Ramachandra Padajay Sharanam Jaya Hanumana Jnana Guna Sagara Jaya Kapisha Tihun Loka Ujagra Ramadute Atulita Baladama Anjani Putra Pavana Sutanama Mahavira Vikrama Bajarangi Kumatini Vara Sumatike Sangi Kanchana Varena Viraja Suvesa Kanana Kundala Kunchita Kesa Hatha Vajra Ora Dwaja Viraje Kande Muja Jane Usaje Shankara Suana Kesari Nandana Teja Pratapa Mahajagabandan Vidyavana Guni Ati Chatur Rama Kaja Kariveko Atur Prabhu Charitra Sunive Korasiya Ramalakana Sita Manabasiya Sukshma Rupa Darisiya Hindikawa Nikata Rupa Darilang Bhima Rupa Dari Asura Samare Ramachandra Ke Kaja Samware Laya Sajivana Lakhana Jiyaye Shri Raghuvira Harashi Oralaye Raghupati Kini Bahota Barai Tuma Mama Priya Bharatayi Samabhai Sahasabharana tomorrow Jasigawen Asakahi Shri Pati Kanta Lagawen Sanakadika Brahmadi Munisa Narada Sarada Sahita Ahisa Yamakubera Digapala Jahante Kavi Kobida Kahisake Kahante Tuma Upakara Sugriva Inkina Rama Milaya Rajapadadina Tomorrow mantra vibhishanamana Lankeshwara bhaye sabha jagajana Yuga sahasra jo jana parabhanu Liyotahi madhura falajanu Prabhu mudrika meli mukamahi Jaladi langiga acharachanahi Durgama kaja jagata ke jete sugamanugra tumare te te Rama duare tumarakavare hotana agya binu pesare sabasukalae tumari sharana tumara chakakahu kodarna Apana teja samaro ape tinon loka hankate kampe bhuta pisacha nikate nahi awe Mahavira jabanama sunawe nase roga hare sabapira japata nirantara hanumata bira Sankatate Hanumana Churave Manakrama Bachana Dhyana Jolawe Sabha Pararama Tapaswi Raja Tina Ke Kaja Sakala Tumasaja Ora Manorata Joko Ilawe Soi amita jiwana phala pawe charo yuga paratapa tumara he parasiddha jagata ujiyara sadhu santa ke tumara kaware asura nikandan rama dulare ashta siddhi nidhi ke data Asavardadina Janaki Mata Rama Rasayana Tumare Pasa Sadaraho Raghupati Ke Dasa Tumare Bhajana Rama Jiko Pawe Janama Janama Ke Duka Bisarawe Antakale Raghuvarda Purajai Jahan Janama Hari Bhakta Kahai Ora Devata Chitta Nadarai Hanumata Se Sarva Sukha Karai Sankata Kate Mite Sabapira Josumire Hanumata Balabira Jai 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 Hanuman Gosai Kripa Karahu Guru Deva Kinai Jo Satambara Patakar Hoi Chutai Bandi Mahasukha Hoi Joya Pare Hanuman Chalisa Oya Siddha Saki Gaurisa Tulasi dasa sadari chera, Ije nath hridaya mahandera, Pavanatanaya sankate harana, Mangala murati rupa, Ramalakana sita saita, Hridaya basahu surabhupa siyaware, Ramachandra padaje sharanam. Bolo Pavana Sutta Hanumana ki jai.
Jai. Jai Shri Ram. Thank you so much, Ram. It's been such a wonderful session. You've all got us back into the devotional mode. Huh? Like as you said, no, it's like the ocean with all these sides of devotion, like pushing on us.
Yes, that's all there is, actually.
It's been such, yes, it's amazing and it's so wonderful having you around. Yeah. And we're all just, part of the ocean, playing his Leela. So we would love to have you again sometime, okay?
Yes, it's very simple, no?
Yes.
It's
So,
so simple.
I mean, yes.
Even if you think it's too much.
Yeah, I think you have a professional call to take around another 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, I have to go. So, yes, anytime. Love to share.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ram. It's been so wonderful. Yeah.
Thanks for all the love.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. Bye.
Jai Sadguru Nannagaru ki